Welcome to my Capstone presentation. As Orion said, my name is Devin Prairie, for those of you that don't know who I am. So we're going to start out, my project takes a little bit to run in the background, so we're going to start out by starting the process, and then we're going to, I'm going to jump into some other information, and then we'll come back to see where this picks up. So to start, what we're going to do is I just have a test machine. This actually isn't anything physical that Nagios is monitoring, but it is there for me to run passive checks. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to tell Nagios that the machine went down and that it needs to initiate the event handler that runs my script to create a new machine. So while that works in the background, we can see here in just a second, it should pop up at the bottom that a machine is being cloned. And this takes anywhere from 7 to 10 minutes to do. Hopefully today it will be fast. I've already done a couple of clones, so it should be in memory down in the SAN in the server room. So while we wait on that, I have a presentation to go through here with you guys. So I like to call my project the Web Server Saver. So how many of you guys have ever gone to a website that's having a sale and you try to buy something and all of a sudden the page just shuts down on you? Right? Kind of annoying. Well, half the time it's because we have too many users on the machine. And sometimes they're small companies, they haven't really gotten started, and so they don't really expect to see very many users on their site, and so it goes down. My project allows for the automation of web server VMs to be automatically deployed when Nagios, which we saw just before, detects that there is overtaxing or that a web server has gone down. So this speeds up the process as well as saves the company lots and lots of money. Because when it goes down, you're kind of like, well, do I wait? Do I just leave? And half the time, for most people, because we want instant gratification, we want to buy it now, we just leave and we never come back, right? So that's lost money. The technologies that I used, how did I do this? Mainly, I used Puppet, Power CLI, and Nagios to do the main functionality of my project. With these three things, this could be done in anybody's environment. So with Puppet, this is an agent master program that applies configurations written by a user, written by an administrator, to their nodes or their agents. And it's passed over, and the Puppet agent on the node then runs and makes sure that machine, that node, is in the proper state it should be. So it keeps from having diverging machines, things that aren't quite right over here and over here. It keeps things perfectly in balance. Nagios is our monitoring system, like I said. Basically, through Windows monitoring instrumentation, I'm able to get information from the machines into Nagios, monitors CPU, memory, whether or not the host is alive or not, and whether or not it can be pinged, which is a big thing in web servers because if it can't be pinged, we probably can't get to it. So with the demo, currently it is still running, so let's take a look here. And we have two being produced by the script. So if one goes down, we get two more, kind of the head of the Hydra type deal. Okay. So as it's still running, we'll come back to this after I discuss a couple of other things with you. So, what learning experiences did I have? As you can see from this quote, failure is the condiment that gives success its flavor. I don't view my failures as failures. I view them as learning experiences. What could I have done differently? What could I have done better? So what could I have done differently as I went through this. I found that reading through various documents as I was working with Puppet, I could not find a strong solution for creating VMs directly onto VMware's vSphere Center with Puppet. So that brought me to the solution of using Power CLI, which is VMware's PowerShell modules for creating VMs for administrators, specifically scripting, which is what I did. Some other issues that I ran into early on were some broken virtual switches in my virtualized environment. I couldn't get out to my physical world through them, and I had to do some funny testing to finally get that to working. I also had an issue running Power CLI on Linux. Even with PowerShell Core being out and being used in Linux, and the latest iteration of Power CLI being available to being run on that core instance of PowerShell on Linux, I could not get Nagios's worker processes, its automatic event handlers, to properly handle the script. Then something else I ran into was about week 8 of the project. We had some funny things go on with one of the racks in the server room, the rack that my Capstone happened to be on. And I lost my vCenter server. It just crashed. vCenter is very, very temperamental sometimes, especially its appliance. But luckily for me, from the beginning, I had implemented backups. So I was able to turn what would have been a 2 or 3 hour fix to get myself back up and running into a 20-minute redeploy. What would I improve? One of the things that I would really like to improve is unifying the technology. Right now, I am using Power CLI and Puppet to do the creation and provisioning of the web servers. I'd like to use one technology, whether that be Chef or Ansible or, again, Puppet, to do these things. Along with that, creating a more universal solution. Right now, your environment has to be for VMware because I'm using Power CLI. I would also like to work with physical servers. Instead of just being able to bring up virtual machines, I'd like to bring on physical machines as well. Because sometimes you might have an issue where the system's working, but you run out of resources on your physicals, and you need to add another one in. So I would like to be able to add another physical in, and then start building virtual machines on top of that. Let's see how we're doing over here. Looks like they finished. And currently I have an issue with powering on in the script. For whatever reason, right now my Linux machine is currently SSHing, I know, terrible, to a Windows machine to run the scripts. And the worker process just sends the first command, which is start the clone, and then it closes my connection, which does not cause the server to power on after the machine has been cloned. So what it goes through, it'll be powered on, and then what will happen is, because this is going to take too long, the machine will be added into Puppet, and as we can see here, right now it currently has 6 nodes in enforcement, which means that it's taking actions against those nodes to make sure they're in line with what I have set for them. And we have 4 of them here, 2, 3, 4, and 5 that are all being given changes to make them line up with what they should be. So once the machine turns on, does a couple of things, what will happen is the node will be added into the Puppet Master automatically, and the IIS services will be installed, as well as setting up the proper channels for that. as well as it will be added into the Nagios monitoring. Here, we'll get another server that'll come up, and it'll start monitoring those processes as well. So that way, if that machine goes down, we can spin another 2 up. Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes, Nick.
So currently, as it stands, it wouldn't actually work because it doesn't power.
Correct. Yep.
Correct. I guess my question is, what thresholds have you sent to Nagios to make it so that it detects well enough in advance that it needs to clone, so that by the time it actually reaches the point of web server failure, it's moving traffic over to the other machines? Like, where are those?
So there's also a load balancer, which I didn't show on top. It's a third party that is running on top that's load balancing across the web servers. As far as Nagios is concerned, it's looking at both memory and CPU. Those values are set about half of the CPU and the physical memory available to it. Once it hits those values, Nagios goes, okay, I'm starting to see that all of these machines are currently running at least half of their expected memory, and triggers the script. As well as Nagios monitors the if the machine all of a sudden just disappears, it can't talk to it, can't ping it, it automatically runs the script as well.
You have a firewall in place that keeps traffic from like China or Russia that's constantly bombarding servers?
Yep. Yep.
Does it remove servers once it reaches a certain threshold, or does it continue to just build servers?
So that is one of my stretch goals that I was wanting to do, and I did not get that implemented. I just ran out of time. Yes.
What load balancer are you using?
I'm currently using Load Balancer, I believe, by Kemp Technologies.
And are the machines, when they're spun up, automatically added to the load balancer?
Yes.
Who's doing that?
So currently the Load Balancer is just monitoring a range of IP addresses that the web servers are automatically being added into through DHCP. That was something that I just did quickly so that I could get the Load Balancer up. In all reality, that's not the way that I would like to do it in the future, and something I wish I could improve on is having them add themselves into the load balancer to start monitoring it.
Okay. And when you're running Puppet to get the machine up to spec, is it going out and downloading the website from like a repository and using it, or how is the website being?
So the website is being generated from Puppet. The files are all stored on Puppet, on the Puppet master. And they are automatically, once the IIS services are installed and the default website is removed, then a directory is formed as well as the files are sent over, and a new website is formed out of those files.
So what's the negative to doing it that way?
So the negative is that the Puppet master, if we have a whole bunch of machines being spun up at once and they're all contacting the Puppet master is going to start getting attacked by requests for Puppet runs, and specifically all of those files.
I think you have a much larger problem than that. So if there's any web developers in the room, how often do you update your website?
Very frequently.
Very frequently.
Yeah.
And in your solution, what's going to happen every time they make a code change to the website?
They're going to have to push the files either to the Puppet master, or they're going to have to physically put them on the master themselves.
Right.
Yep.
And if you could build from a repository, what would they have to do?
They would just have to push the repository.
Have to check it,
Yep.
right? And then it would build out of a repository.
Yep.
Okay. And then
Wait, you forgot about we're told the web developers would have just broken the website.
They would push to alpha.
Yes, yes. Yep.
Or beta, I don't know. Either way. Okay. The last thing is this the most efficient way to do this? What other technologies exist that might make this significantly more efficient?
So as far as one thing that I do know is that VMware has some capabilities to just do this itself through OS customization that would allow this to be a much smoother process within VMware, as well as using Puppet on top of that to just keep the nodes in their place. Beyond that, I'm not.
Did you look into any other ways?
I did not. No.
Okay, so this was kind of the direction you wanted to go,
Yep.
and then you just stuck with it.
Yep.
So in the future, take a look at containerization,
Mhm.
right? So one of the things you're doing here is it's very thick.
Yeah.
Each one of those machines is requiring a lot of CPU, a lot of memory, and a lot of disk space, and you could really thin that out by containerizing. The other thing you should look at is the cloud services. I mean, this is kind of AWS and
Mhm.
bread and butter, right?
For sure.
Take a look at the way they're doing it and what you can do to augment what they're doing. Because it's something that a lot of companies need. They're paying really good money for people to know how to do this stuff right now. This is kind of the whole world of DevOps. And they're paying crazy good money for people to do this, but they obviously don't want to do it in such a resource-intensive way.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So Devin, how much work would it take you to get your the power on issue fixed? Yeah.
So I had I was speaking with some other fellow classmates, and I believe that I can solve this issue by using a cron job. Because what it looks like when the power CLI scripts are run through the worker process of Nagios, for some reason they air out. But when I run them myself on the machine, they execute just fine. So I have a feeling that there's an issue between the worker process in Nagios and them running the Power CLI scripts. So one thing that I'm going to look into is doing a cron job for that so that I don't have to, for one, SSH from a Linux machine over to a Windows machine, which isn't secure at all, to send commands.
Could you also use VMware's automatic startup shutdown? When
Yes.
you create the machine, just set a startup shutdown policy on it so that VMware starts it. It's down.
Yep, I could do that as well. Are there any other questions? Yes, Ricardo.
Can you go into specifics on how you fix the broken virtual switch?
Yeah, so as far as the broken virtual switch, it's very infrequently that you set up an ESXi box, and at least for me in my experiences, and the default virtual switch for connecting the VMs to the outside world is broken. Normally it just works, but in my case, all 4 of my physical hosts, for whatever reason, I'm not sure if it was my ISO image or what, caused an issue with my virtual switches. So what I had to do is I had to do some testing, create a new virtual switch, tag it with my virtual LAN, and start sending information through it. And I was finally able to determine that it wasn't a physical issue, but it was the virtual issue within VMware.
Anybody else? Thank you. Nice.